Hi guys, what is up, and welcome to my channel. It's a Hardback Life. My name is Jordan, and today I'm going to be doing a reading update for you. Now, what this reading update usually entails is me talking about the books that I've read so far throughout the month, and then I tell you basically how I felt about them, and what ratings I gave them and all that jazz. And then I still give you my wrap up at the end of the month, but I don't go into full detail of the books, or at least I try not to, unless I'm still thinking about them. But yeah, I'm going to try and do these on a more regular basis so that my wrap up videos aren't so freaking long. But this list is going to be short because I've only read 3 books. That's 2 fingers. 3 books this month. And reason being for that is I was involved in a readathon last month called the Battle of the Bands Readathon. The Battle of the Bands Readathon was hosted by Jake from the channel The Bookish Drummer. You guys probably know him. If you don't, you should check his channel out. I'll go ahead and link his channel down in the description below. He's a fantastic guy. You should definitely get to know him. And once you go on his channel, you should click on the link for his Discord and join us and hang out there. It's a fun time. And by the way, I was on Team Green Day. Like I said, it was a Battle of the Bands readathon. And what that is basically Jake takes 4 very popular bands and then he makes prompts based off of their songs. And this year, or at least this last readathon, was a battle of the decades. So we had Team Fleetwood, who was representing basically the 70s. Team Journey, who was representing the 80s. Team Nirvana, who was representing the 90s. And then Team Green Day, which I was on, which Jake was the team captain for, was representing the 2000s. Long story short, my team did not win. We were in first place for like about a week. Maybe even 2 weeks. I can't remember exactly. It was a month ago. But it was so much fun. I got to know a lot of people from my team and then a lot of people from other teams. And we had a laugh on the live shows. And it was just a fun time. And I read a total of 10 books for that month. Now, only 7 of them were part of the readathon. And the other 3 were books that I was reading for fun. Well, one of them actually was a DNF that I had to finish reading because I lost a bet with a friend. And you'll find out more about that when I do my July wrap-up. But yeah, I read a total of 10 books, which is the most I've ever read in 1 month. And that was super exhausting because I tried to push through as many books as I could while obviously still working a lot and trying to live my life. But yeah, 10 books was insane. I can't believe I did that. And it was a total of 16 prompts, by the way. So I would have had to read 16 books, and that was not going to happen. I can tell you right now. I don't think I could ever read that much. But the crazy thing is I'm going to involve myself in another readathon next month. And I will give you more details on that when it gets closer to that time. Let's go ahead and jump into the books that I've read so far. Okay, the first book that I read in the month of August so far is none other than Heartstopper Volume 4, the graphic novel, the 4th graphic novel in the Heartstopper graphic novel series. I love this series, and I was trying to reread this series in preparation for the second season. Because I figured I don't want to. I mean, I've already read them, so I'm not going to be. I wasn't going to be spoiled for the show. But I just wanted to refamiliarize myself with these graphic novels in time for the show. And I loved it, of course. And there were some things that I missed, apparently. And I'm glad I reread it, because when I read this, I was like, wait a second, that was in the show. So, and I was just like, how did I miss that when I read that, you know? But yeah, I loved Heartstopper. If you didn't know what Heartstopper is, it's about two boys named Nick and Charlie who become friends, and then their relationship grows from there, and it's so beautiful. And I love all the characters within this graphic novel series, and even the ones that they added or changed into the TV show are precious as well. So, yeah. Love this. Can't wait for Volume 5. Alice Oseman. Alice Oseman's the writer. Can't wait for it. Now, before I get into this next one, I just want to let you know that this is my opinion. And please don't come for me, okay? Just wanted to put that little disclaimer out there. Okay. So the second book I read was Shadow of the Gods. I thought this book was good. It was okay. It wasn't great. Now, wait. I still enjoyed it enough to want to pick up book 2. But it missed the mark for me on certain things. Like, one of the things that I look for in actually every book that I read is character development. This had very little character development. The plot was the main force driving this book. And while it was cool and the action was great and it did advance the story, I still wanted more from the characters, and we got a little bit. I will say that we did get a little bit, but we didn't get enough to satisfy me. And also, yeah, I felt like if we did get any character development, like a lot, like more so, it would be for the side characters. And I was just like, what about the main 3? What about the main 3 characters? I don't know. I was and then like the ending kind of threw me for a loop too. It just, like I said, I did enjoy this book enough to want to pick up book 2. But it just was lacking in some areas. And so I rated this book a 3.7 out of 5. Okay, there's that. People don't come for me. I'm still going to read book 2, which is actually going to be mentioned in a little bit here. And here's another controversial one. It doesn't stop there. I'm sorry. I read Path of Daggers, book 8 in the Wheel of Time. I had an even worse experience with this book. You can go see my Goodreads Goodreads review on Goodreads. I gave this book a 2.5 out of 5 stars. This book was just mostly full of nonsense. I didn't love it. It started, the prologue, first of all, was the most boring and ridiculous prologue on the planet. Like, I didn't enjoy it at all. There was some cool things, like the mention of the Shan Chen and whatever, but that all was a wasted time, pretty much. And then the first 5 chapters I just was like, what the heck are we doing? Anyway, this book, like, it continued from where the last book ended, but it just was like super slow. And then when something did happen, something interesting, it happened, and then the author didn't expand upon it too much. We just went through nonsensical things after nonsensical things, and there were characters in this book that I didn't care about, like all the stinking Aes Sedai that were mentioned. Like, there's too many to mention that were just, like, not important to the story. And I didn't care. And then, like, my whole thing was like, yeah, where's the character development? It's the same thing I had problem with John and Gwen. But this one has little to no character development. The only character that maybe had some development in this book, and you can argue with me, is Egwene. Egwene showed some real improvement when it came to, you know, what she was dealing with. I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't read it, but she showed some real improvement and stepped up to the plate. And I say props to her, because if this was like Academy Award for like best character in a book, she would win that for me in this book, because she was the only one who stood out for me in this book. Robert Jordan is a great writer, and I am not disputing that. But he seems to drag things on and be over descriptive like crazy. And then also, he seems to forget about characters. Like, where was Matt in this whole entire book? The ending of the seventh book, Matt was in some serious pain. Like, it was just bad for Matt. And he's nowhere to be found in this book. He's one of the main three characters. Like, what the heck? And then, obviously, the last 100 pages was just like I said, he forgot about characters, so he just threw them in there in the last 100 or so pages. I was just like, some of this book could have been added to the previous book, and I would have been okay. But this was just a whole book of nonsense. And like I said, this is my opinion. Please don't come for me in the comments. But yeah, this is worse for me than Fires of Heaven, which is another book that I didn't enjoy. But Robert Jordan recovered with the last 250 pages of Fires of Heaven, because stuff happened like crazy in those last 250 pages. Versus this, where things happen and then nothing happens for a long ass time. Excuse my language. But yeah, things happen and then nothing else happens. And then things happen again, and then nothing else happens, and it's not explained, and it's just so boring. Anyway, this is the most recent book I finished. I finished it yesterday, in the middle of the day. Actually, I technically finished it like early Saturday morning, but I fell asleep in the middle of the audiobook, and so I had to go back to where I was at, which was the last 3 chapters is what I needed to finish, and I just refinished them. And I'm sad that I did, because, yeah, this book was horrible to me. And I will still continue this series, though, because I'm invested. This is book number 8, like I said. I'm going to be reading book 9 with the group of people I'm reading the series with next month. And this only took me like 4 or 5 days to actually read. Okay, enough about Path of Daggers, because obviously you saw that I was getting heated. Oh my god. Okay, so next let's shift to books that I still want to read for the month of August. Okay, so a lot of these are books that I haven't decided on what I'm gonna do, or like when I'm gonna read them, whether I'm gonna read them next or after another book. But this book that I'm gonna talk about, I read the first one in this series in June, and you saw my June wrap up, and this should not be a surprise to you. I'm planning on reading A Torch Against the Night, which is book 2 in An Ember in the Ashes. And I'm super excited because the first one was fantastic and I loved it. This is a young adult fantasy about a girl who is a slave and a boy who is in the group of people who is like part of the group of people who are enslaving the main character's people. Well, the other main character's people. And things go down. I can't really say too much because it's the second book, and also I don't want to spoil anything for anybody who hasn't read book 1. But this is one of my favorite books so far this year. The first book was one of my favorite books that I've read this year so far. And I feel like this is going to be a favorite series of all time, even though I've only read book 1. That's how much I love the first book. So I have high hopes for this one. Oh, the author is Sabaa Tahir, by the way. Sabaa Tahir. This next book is a must-read. It's a must-read because I met the author at Barnes & Noble. She's a local author. And her book just seems so interesting. It's called Invoking the Blood by Callista Knife. This is a vampire romance fantasy. So I'm kind of nervous, but at the same time excited because this is an adult fantasy. And I have mostly strayed away from reading vampires in romance fantasy. But I decided to give this a chance because the way she described it and just, the cover alone as well is really beautiful. And she signed it, by the way. This is a signed edition. There's her signature, you guys. I'm very excited to read this. Also, so that next time she stops by Barnes & Noble, I can discuss it with her. I'm going to talk about is a new release. And it's one that I've been meaning to get to. It came out, I think, in May? May. It is Rebecca Yaros's Fourth Wing. And by the way, I have a Sprayed Edges edition. I got it at Walmart because Barnes & Noble was sold out of them the day it came out. And luckily, like I said, I found it at Walmart because they weren't just selling this one edition at Barnes & Noble like I thought. So, thank God. But all I know about this is a girl who wants to be something different, but her mom basically tells her she has no choice but to be a dragon rider. So she goes to the school, and she's like a tiny little thing. And the dragons obviously are huge. And the main thing about this school that she's going to attend is the only way you can leave the school is by graduating or getting killed. So obviously you know which one that she would prefer to choose. So, I've heard a lot of great things about this, and lately I've also heard a lot of mixed reviews about this, so I'm a little nervous. And I already pre-ordered the second book, Iron Flame, so here's hoping I like this one. Okay, the next book I'm going to talk about is a book that I'm already reading, and it's a book I read last month, actually, for the readathon, but I wanted to reread it because I enjoyed it so much, and that is Emily Henry's Book Lovers. This is about two people who are agents in the publishing industry, and they meet, and it's not such a pretty meeting. They are both turned off by each other, and they end up both coming face to face with each other multiple times because the main character goes on vacation, and the other main character, who is the love interest, happens to also be there. And they have a bunch of run-ins which are somewhat unpleasant, but also each time is a growing experience for both of them. And it just develops beautifully. And I loved it when I read it in July. I'm loving it even more since I'm reading it in August. This is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. And I definitely recommend it, especially if you love rom-coms. Okay, the next book I'm going to talk about is What If It's Us by Becky Albertalli and Adam Silvera. This is about two boys who have a meet cute moment at a post office, and then they don't see each other again after that for a while because they don't get names, they don't get numbers, they don't know who the other person is, and so they spend a good portion of the book trying to find each other. And when they do find each other, their relationship blossoms. And there's also a sequel called Here's to Us, and I do plan on finally reading that. It came out like December of 21, and I still haven't read it. I know. Get with the program, Jordan. Now, the last two books I'm going to talk about, one is a romance fantasy, and one is the sequel to a book that I just talked about, and it's an adult fantasy. First one is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I almost said Sarah J. Maas for some odd reason. I don't know why. From Blood and Ash, I don't know too much about it, so I'm going to go into it blind. All I know is it's another romance fantasy, and people told me if I like Sarah J. Maas, I'm going to enjoy Jennifer L. Armentrout. Well, that remains to be seen. I'm going to go into it with an open mind, though. And the moment you guys have been waiting for, the last book that I am going to talk about is the sequel to Shadow of the Gods, and that is Hunger of the Gods. This is book number 2 in the Bloodsworn saga, and it's a little bit more chunky. The first book was 482 pages. This one's 625, so hopefully because it's a little bit more chunky, we get more character development and just more of what I want in this second book. I'm hoping. Because if I don't like this one, I don't think I'm going to pick up book 3 when it comes out. I'm just kidding, I probably will, just because I'm curious. But I really, really want to like this one. I didn't hate the first one, like I said. I just wish there was a little bit more meat to the bones of book 1. But yeah, I am really excited about this. I have the audiobook on Audible for this one. That's how I read book 1 because I DNF'd book 1 twice physically in the past. So I hope to get through this one and love it. Just I hope you love it. Anyway, you guys, that was my reading update / books that I plan on continuing for the rest of the month. And there's more, but I didn't want to share all of them because that would be a while. And also because that would mean I'm just very indecisive of what I want to read. But yeah, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, like and subscribe. That would mean a lot to me. And also give you a heads up on when I post content. Anyway, you guys, I hope you have a great day. I shall see you later. Bye.